All right, hi guys. Today we are learning about 3.1 ratios and rates. This is something you did learn about a little bit last year, so we're going to continue practicing it in this section. So the first thing we're looking at is can we simplify fractions? This is review of what we did yesterday, actually, so we should feel pretty confident with that. Can we write ratios as fractions in simplest forms? Can we find unit rates? And then the last example we'll look at is unit rates again, but using a table rather than a sentence. All right, so here is our warm-up, simplifying these fractions. So whatever table number you sit at is the number I would like you to try. So again, you're simplifying this fraction. Go ahead and try it in your notebook. Pause the video for more time. All right, here's the correct answer to your simplifying question. Okay, so again, whatever table number you were at, here's the correct answer. And actually, these table numbers got a little messed up, so we'll correct those. There we go. If you tried that challenge down at the bottom, there's the answer for that one as well. A lot of simplifying to do there. You actually had to divide those guys by 12. All right, here's some key vocabulary. You should write this down in your notebook. Again, you should take notes and copy this down into your notebook. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. So for example, 8 dogs to 24 cats. Okay, maybe in a shelter, maybe you're saying our ratio of dogs to cats is for every 8 dogs, I have 24 cats. Okay. A rate is a quantity using different divisions. So that ratio, I was talking about animals. I was talking about the same type of unit. But a rate, we hear a lot about those as like miles per hour for cars that are driving. They were driving 88 miles in 2 hours. Okay, that's a rate. So I'm comparing miles and hours. They have completely different units. A unit rate, though, always compares it to 1. So 77 miles per hour, that's an example there. So we could say, I don't know, 8 cups of flour per batch of brownies. I don't know. Again, we're always comparing it to 1. Unit rate stands for 1 per 1. So these are the 3 different types of problems we'll be seeing today. We'll look at ratios, rates, and unit rates. Pause the video if you need more time to take notes. A ratio is a pair of numbers that compares 2 types of units. There are 3 ways to write a ratio. You can write it in fraction form. So here's that first example there in fraction form. Okay. 1/2, that doesn't actually read as 1/2 when we're talking about ratios. It reads as 1 to 2. Okay, for every 1 cat, there's 2 dogs. You could write it in word form using the word 2. So instead of saying 2, you would write the word 2. Or here, you could write it as a colon, which still stands for 1 to 2. That's how you read these. All of these are read by saying 1 to 2. They just look differently. In 6th or 7th grade, we are only really going to be looking at the fraction form. So again, you might see it in word form or colon form, but we are really only going to be using that fraction form here in 7th grade. So let's go ahead and look at an example here. So the steps to writing a ratio. First, take whatever numbers they're talking about and write them in fraction form. The biggest thing I can tell you is make sure you keep them in order. They have to be in order by the way they're read, by the way it says in the sentence. So again, you're going to take those numbers and put them into fraction form. Simplify the fraction, and then a lot of people forget this step right here, step 3, label the ratio. So again, numbers into fraction form, simplify, label. Making sure that these numbers stay in order. Again, those numbers need to stay in order. So here's our first example. There are 18 boys and 15 girls in a gym class. Find the ratio, here it says, of boys to girls. Again, boys to girls. So boys is my numerator, girls is my denominator. Finding the ratio of boys to girls in a gym class. So what I did is I took my numbers 18 and 15 and I wrote them into a fraction. Here, 18 over 15. Then step 2, I simplified down to 6 over 5. And then step 3, labeling, making sure you put on a label. Pause the video if you need more time to write this down. Let's go ahead and you try this one. There are 16 dogs and 12 cats at the vet. Write the ratio of dogs to cats as a fraction in simplest form. Pause the video while you try. All right, let's go ahead and go over this one. So we have 16 dogs and 12 cats at the vet. The ratio here is saying dogs to cats. That order matters. That statement right there, dogs to cats, means 16 is going to be my numerator and 12 is going to be my denominator because 16 dogs to 12 cats. Now I'm ready to simplify. I know here that I can pull out a 4 from a 16 and a 12. So I'm going to simplify by dividing out a 4. That's going to give me 4 over 3. Now, in ratios, you don't combine that into a mixed number. You leave it improper. And you do that because if you were to combine a 4 into 3, you would get a dog cat or a cat dog. It'd be dogs and cats aren't the same thing, so you can't combine them in one number. You leave ratios improper. And then step number 3, and you can't forget this step. If you forget this step, your answer is going to be wrong. You have to label. So 4 dogs to 3 cats is your final answer here. You have to label and you leave it improper because dogs and cats aren't the same thing. So you can't combine them into a 1 1/3 dog cat. That makes no sense. Okay. Let's go ahead and whatever table you sit at is a number I'd like you to try. If you finish early, go ahead and try that challenge down there. Pause the video while you work. All right, let's go ahead and look at these ratio answers. One thing I did want to point out real quick before I even show you the answers is right here it states in simplest form. Make sure you're reading those directions. You could write a ratio, for example, A could be 9 cats over 12 dogs. But it says simplest form, so you have to make sure you're simplifying that fraction. Okay, here's our answers. The answer there is in red. Okay, so again, we have them in simplest form. That challenge down there, all you could do on that challenge was divide it by 2. Can't simplify any further. So you have 359 yo-yos to 478 fidget spinners. I'll tell you guys, when I was younger, elementary, middle school, yo-yos were kind of our fidget spinner. I was never really any good at them. Using a yo-yo, maybe some of you guys are, but definitely that was kind of our like fidget toy. All right, let's go ahead and look at writing unit rates. So again, remember unit rates is how much for 1. So first we take those numbers and we just write them as a normal rate or ratio. Then we simplify the fraction so the denominator is 0. Your denominator, that's what you're looking for, is not 0. It should not say 0 there. I apologize. Is 1. You have to get that denominator to 1. How much for 1? And then just like in our unit rates, or I'm sorry, our ratios, we do have to label our answer. Okay. So when I look at this example, 8 hot dogs can be bought for $12. What is the unit rate of a hot dog? That's simply asking, how much is it for 1 hot dog? So the first thing I did here is I took my 8 hot dogs for $12 and I wrote it into a rate. So $12 for 8 hot dogs. Now we have to get our denominator to 1. That's what we're looking for here. So to get 8 down to a 1, I divide it by itself. Divide by 8. Well, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I'm going to divide that numerator by 8 as well, giving me $1.50 per hot dog. Sounds like it's like one of those Home Depot hot dogs, I'm guessing. Okay, so again, if you go to Home Depot and you buy 8 hot dogs and they're like $12, well, your mom's like, I gave you allowance. You can pay for your own hot dog. You're going to have to do that math and figure out, well, how much is just one hot dog? Well, if 8 hot dogs were $12, one hot dog is $1.50. Let's go ahead and you try one, finding the unit rate. So find the unit rate, 262 miles in 5 hours. You want to figure out how many miles did I go in 1 hour. Go ahead, pause the video while you work. All right, so here it's asking, and we can write this in a rate, 262 miles in 5 hours. And I'm just going to abbreviate miles and hours, and you can do that too, as long as you and I both know what you're talking about when you abbreviate there. We are trying to figure out how far did they go in 1 hour. So if they traveled 262 miles in 5 hours, how far in 1 hour? And what we do here is we divide our denominator by itself. So I divide 5 hours by 5, which means I also need to divide 262 miles by 5. So I can just grab my handy dandy calculator, because remember we have calculators in this chapter, and I type in 262 divided by 5 is going to give me 52.4 miles per hour. Okay, and that's kind of where like our speed comes from when we're driving in a car. This means that I drove on average 52 miles per hour. Okay. Let's go ahead, and whatever table number you sit at is the unit rate I'd like you to solve. Okay, so here's the sentence. Now I want you to write this as a unit rate. Pause the video while you work. And if you have more time, extra time, maybe you finish early, try the challenge at the bottom. All right, here's our correct answers. We have below all of these answers. So look and see how you did, making sure you labeled your correct answers. If you did that challenge one, you would divide the numerator and the denominator by 18. So again, you can see in all of these questions, 1 is our denominator. 1 can, 1 ounce, 1 second, and so on. So again, that's what a unit rate is. How much for 1, how long for 1, how far for 1, how many on 1 lane. Too bad bowling alleys are closed, because that sounds like a lot of fun right now. All right, let's look at this example here. We're looking for how many calories per serving. So for this one, you have to kind of do a little bit further thinking. They're not laying it out for you. This is asking how many calories per serving. So when I look here at this per serving, I can look in the table. I have calories and I have the number of servings. In this example, I actually got pretty lucky, because if I look, my unit rate is right in there, 90 calories for every 1 serving. I already have my answer, 90 calories for 1 serving. That's not going to always be the case. It's not going to have the unit rate in the table all the time. So let's say that this one wasn't in the table. Okay, it jumped from 0 and went to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You pick a rate and turn it into the unit rate. So let's say I picked 270 calories for every 3 servings. I would do 270 calories for every 3 servings. I would calculate to find the unit rate by dividing both of these by 3. 270 divided by 3 is 90 calories. 3 servings divided by 3 is 1 serving. So sometimes it'll be like this one, it'd be really nice and have the unit rate in the table. You just got to pull it out of the table and rewrite it. Other times, you're going to have to do the math and the calculations. So quick review. Ratios, you write them in simplest form. you write them in fraction form and simplify as far as you can. If they end up improper with a big number sitting on a little number, that's okay. Label. Rates. 270 calories for 3 servings. That's a rate. You're just comparing 2 different units, servings and calories. Unit rate, though, is how much for 1. So you have to simplify all the way down to 1. Those are the 3 types of problems that will be on your homework: ratio, rates, and unit rates. So all 3 of those, you need to know the difference. All right, speaking of homework, here is your homework. Journal page 58, 1 through 9. If you finish early, open up that textbook, page 102, and you work on some whiteboards. All right, if you have any questions, just reach out.